Good evening. So I think since we are running behind time, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. Um, First of all, thanks to Chetana for making me part of this, I would say very much needed event and very interesting event, I would say. Bringing together the student and faculty and some of the leading lights in this domain together in one day, and so many sessions, and each one of them insightful. So this topic, I'm glad to say that a lot of that has already been touched upon in the previous session, right from the address of Professor Vidya Shankar. I'm glad to be living in a time when our government board, this NEP, which has a lot of this vision. It is bringing, the structural changes as well as giving that choice, freedom of choice to a lot of institutions and entrepreneurs and individuals to bring about a change. Government itself cannot bring about a change, but it can facilitate through policies. So I have had a chance to, personally discuss with Professor M.K. Sridhar, who was one of the architects of NEP. They are very serious about bringing about this lot of things. But they still believe that people, that is parents, the parents community is still not ready to embrace the entire gamut of flexibility that is possible, that will actually bring about this holistic education. If you stand back and look at all the possibilities, that comes closer to our Gurukul system, basically. So as a teacher who started my career in Belgaum, where I got exposed to the excellence in academic as well as some industrial work, and moving on to IIT, I experienced again, what may be the best possible educational environment our country can provide, and then all other implications of that. I went to India of time, I've become consultant, I've worked as at a director's level in IT-enabled industry. Then the analytics happened, I've been a successful consultant, as well as I've facilitated a pro bono learning center for the so-called unemployable. People who just studied in Kannada medium, commerce and arts have also learned analytics. They have become excellent programmers in R, and they are all now in MNCs, having started their jobs in these startups. So those are all the potentials possible, in this domain or in this space of holistic education. So thanks for our facilitator for mentioning about that, we don't know what we don't know, relates to Upanishadic statements. And if somebody actually starts with, I don't know what I don't know, then there is a possibility of enlightenment. I like that very much. On the same ground, I would say, my whatever I say comes from my first-hand personal experience, which also means that it is a lot of self-centered, view of things, possibly. But then, in our Upanishadic or Vedantic tradition, I have also come across this statement from Adi Shankara, that even if it is Brahma Gyan, unless you have personally experienced it, you have to doubt that. So that's the importance of experiencing something personally before speaking out, one. Two, when you start observing things from very close quarters, giving total attention in Sakshi Bhav, when you start understanding the truth, then a lot of the things which are otherwise visible start appearing like Maya. And that's what, that's why you keep hearing me always providing a counter view or a devil's advocate. So when we talk of education, it's a Kumbh Mela, where every kid is lost. And they're struggling, and you are struggling. And faculty are struggling to find their place, and students are obviously struggling to find their place, and parents seem to have no clue. And then management are trying to hold it together, trying to cater to the government policies and the private industries, demands, and nation as a whole, the aspirations of a nation as a whole. So it's really a Kumbh Mela which starts with, education, then unemployment problem, creating a lot of anxiety and disorder. The student is at the center of that. And then we are trying to find out alternative ways of bridging the gap. and a lot of individuals like Lacour are doing. I have done it. And then we got exhausted. Unless there are structural changes, unless the system embraces, individuals are not going to make a whole lot of difference, but that's what is always, that's how it is always. Some individual who can see through and look ahead will try to do whatever is possible within their, limitation. So today, now, thankfully, the whole industry, whole government, and every system is talking about it, trying to explore what can we do as a system, as a nation. To the next. Will this work? Okay. So when we look at this as a great nation, and we have built such a fantastic education infrastructure, etc., but the indicators are bizarre. Like some 85% graduates are labeled unemployable. About 10, 12 years ago, suddenly, within a quarter of declaring 85% are unemployable, they declared 95% are unemployable. Fortunately for some people like me who were watching that, what had actually happened was, it is a NASSCOM report. They published what is the net new jobs created by ITES industry. And when you match the numbers, there were 20 lakh graduates produced by engineering and diploma institutions aspiring to join IT industry. But IT industry created only 3 lakh jobs. So that made it 85% of them whom they cannot employ, they call them unemployable. Within 2 quarters, NASSCOM revised those numbers. The revised projected net number of new jobs created by IT industry became 1.5 lakhs. Immediately they called 95% of graduates unemployable. It is that scandalous. And of course, if you match by skill, but then we know that 30 years ago, when nobody had any IT skill, everybody was employable. How is that? Everybody and his father and uncle were employed by IT industry. They, like my generation and we all became leaders in IT industry. How was that possible? So it is a scandal, believe me. That's how the Maya, how bizarre the Maya can be if you actually look at it. That's when, I took up that on my own, the facilitation, and everybody became employable. People who had come from Belgaum and rural areas, even rural Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, absolutely bottom of the pyramid. They are not even in the 80 to 85%. They are in the below 25%. It only needed sufficient time to be given and hand-holding them and teaching them at their level, in their language. And that could make the difference. And we did cater. We have supported more than 25, 30 startups like that. But for the availability of these economically viable resources, these startups could not have happened. That is a fact. Similarly, look at this. Okay, you are employable. Let's say 5 to 10 or 25% are employable. After becoming employed, what do they do? Because I worked in that mass employment IT industry, one of the reports of the HR across this industry, the HR forum across this industry, was that 80% of employees in any organization, public, private, big, small, are disengaged from the objective, vision, mission of the organization. They're disengaged from their job. Just they show up, do enough to take home their salary. Only the top 5% are actively engaged with the vision, mission, and the objective of the organization. Then the next 15% have to work for them. So they will manage to work. Why so? 80% of the best technical graduates, actually it is about 85%, like IIT graduates, they go and become fund managers. So you would think that, okay, these are all problems with only non-IIT, our university colleges and local private colleges. No, it is not. So those who were eminently employable, they got the best education possible with all the industry inputs and industry participation, faculty doing industrial R&D, academic R&D. Why are they not coming to these jobs? So the rot is much more deeper. It is not just about these numbers from industry. Then, this was the hypothetical thing I tried to mention, that suppose, hypothetically, everybody was employable, every graduate was employable, are there that many jobs industry is producing? Absolutely no. Historically in India, less than 20% have been employed. The definition of employment, which is driving all these metrics about unemployability and unemployment, is morning to evening, 9 to 5 job with weekend holidays, monthly salary, and all the PF and this, that, and the other. But what about the other people? Just about 18% people are actually employed by this definition of employment. But what are the others doing? About 30% are actually daily wagers. The remaining 50%, 53% are actually self-employed in various capacities. Entrepreneurs, roadside entrepreneur, micro entrepreneur. So we have a MSME, a whole department looking into a lot of that, which is what our Prime Minister has been trying to tell. Are they not earning their living with dignity? Why do you call them unemployed? So these are the bizarre, numbers, actually. It vanished. There are other horrible things. When the whole education system has become a factory system, primary, secondary education catering to this 10+2, which has to cater to, the engineering and the professional degrees, and once they get into that, that is what happens to them. 85% are unemployable, those who are eminently employable, 80% are disengaged, and so on. This pressure that has gone into schooling system, and NIMAN's research a few years ago showed that 80% of the students in 15 to 26 age group, which is from the 10th standard, that's when the pressure of doing excellently in board exams starts. Because if you don't get 90+%, you can't get into science, therefore you cannot become engineer or doctor. 80% of those in 15 to 26, 26 means they would have finished their graduation and unemployed. They were angry with the whole system. I did not mention even more horrifying numbers there. About 30% of them were depressed with a lot of issues of aggression, addiction, unspeakable things. They did not know what to do. This came from the survey of 5 major cities in India. Then another number from, the numbers are horrendous, I didn't put, I just put the insight out of that. Another number from National Crime Bureau said that about 9,000 students committed suicide every year, which is 1 per hour. How does it feel like when you hear this? And they could be any of your neighborhood child, or it could be one of your family member's child. As a teacher, as an adult, as an administrator of this whole system, how do you feel like when you see this? And this whole pressure is what is driving today the employment, employability, as if once somehow they get employed, they will be doing something. But that's what is happening to those who are employed. And those who are eminently employable, that's what they are doing. So, why is there so much competition, so much money spent on all sides? People are selling their properties to raise some money. They are taking, money for, unspeakable, interest rates to invest in education. What happens to all of that? What happens to all of them, right? And with so much of competition, so much of cash flow, but no confidence in competencies. The individuals are not confident about their competencies. You just take a survey of any student. After 4 years of education in best of the institution, how many of them are confident that I am this engineer? If you attend 3 interviews, he will be knowing what is the worth of that paper. I have challenged my students saying that when you go to a shop and buy a t-shirt or a jeans for 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, or your mother buys a sari for few hundred rupees, or you buy a bucket and mug for 100 rupees, if it is broken or torn or something, a button missing, what do? You go back and fight with the shop owner to get replacement for that 100 rupees bucket. But you have spent your lifetime earnings taking loans, and then you got a degree. You spent 4 years of your life paying whatever fees, whatever donation, all kind of things. You did whatever everybody wanted you to do. After that, all you got is a piece of paper, and industry says it is not worth the cost of paper on which it is printed. Why are you not going back and asking them, whoever gave you the certificate? Why don't you do that? It is lakhs of rupees spent, 4 years of your life, and you are in a hopeless situation. You don't know what to do. Nobody cares. Now your parents also disown you. Go to Bangalore, get some job. Don't stay here because you are a shame. You are an embarrassment to the family in the town. This is what we are doing to children. So obviously something is unholy in this whole setup. If we as educators do not want to look into that, who else will? So what is the root cause? Demand-driven mass. I would not like to call that as education. It is administration. If at all, you can call it administration. We have conceived a system which is inherited by somebody. We keep on blaming every day Lord Macaulay, But Lord Macaulay is dead and gone long ago. Why are we stuck with that still? As if we cannot think outside of that. Who are parents today were students not very long ago. Less than 10 years ago, they were all students. They have come through the same thing. Why is that they are pushing their children back to the same system? The root cause is there. The factory model from industrial revolution. It actually copied the industrial revolution model of mechanical factory, mechanical automation, where everything is, predictable and it's an assembly line. Time-bound teaching and graduation. Any common sense, if you have 2 children in your home, even if they are twins, they are not exactly same. What made us think that with 100 students in a classroom, everybody will learn every subject exactly in the, through the same time frame and will pass with excellence? Obviously, we are not thinking. We are not even thinking. Curriculum which is disintegrated in space and time. So many subjects broken up. I actually make my, learners who come to me count how many subjects did they study. In their engineering, about 64 subjects, and up to 12th, few hundred subjects. How many tests and exam? I forget the number. It is something like 250 tests and exams up to 12th. Another similar number, because you have every half semester a test and so on. If tests and exams were going to make you intelligent, why are you here? And why do we keep continuing to do that? What has failed us over 50 years, why do we continue to do that? That is even more appalling. Knowledge imparted through authoritative means. We know that even Nobel-winning, prize-winning discoveries, after 10 years it is debunked by somebody else who gets another Nobel Prize for that. Why have we made textbook out of everything, and mugging up from textbook and reproducing in exam has become do or die situation? Actually, children are driven to depression and suicide because of. In my time, 7th standard was also public exam. District level public exam, there were suicides. In fact, one of my relative had committed suicide at that time. Then they removed that public exam. After that, suicide at 7th standard reduced. That's all. And now something is happening. I work with some psychologists in the rural area. They say it is a terrible time. It starts from January itself. The pressure builds up. Everybody in rural school, in 10th standard, right from January itself, they have migraine. This is fact. And this is not just now, not just in the state and the rural and so on, even in institutions of higher education like IITs. We would think that, we believe, education is for making life. It is for life. If that was so, why is there more incidences of depression, suicides in institutions of higher excellence, higher academic excellence? I have seen MTech students committing suicide. I have seen PhD students committing suicide, and I have even seen one faculty committing suicide. So it relates to the discussion we were having. What is the role of faculty? When you make anything mandatory, and what an individual is not meant for, it creates enormous stress. There was this faculty who was he was loved by his student, extraordinary academically, but he was pushed to manage a couple of crores project. At that time, it was big. He could not handle the pressure. He committed suicide. What are we talking about? And why do PhD students get into depression and suicide? When I did not understand it then, but when I came back and spent my time in academia and also dealing with students and some other kind of processes, it occurred to me, your whole system right from childhood is about answering somebody else's question. You are not supposed to ask questions in classroom. If you ask question, you are branded as a something, and you will be punished with more questions, question papers and tests. This happens in IIM also. If you are a kind of a rebel, then they ask them to come in the midnight and write some tests. This is what I've heard. So just load the student. What is the root cause of that? I heard from a child psychologist that when children start speaking, they start asking questions. In fact, the motivation to start learning to speak and communicate is to understand the world. They want to know what is this, what is that, and they, first identification, then they want to know why is it like this, how does it work, and so on. So the child psychologist and child educator told me that at the age of 4, a child will be asking 400 questions per day. Obviously, 2 parents cannot answer that. 2 parents and 2 or 4 grandparents cannot answer a single child's question. So what do? They send them to school. And in the school, frankly, I don't think any parent has thought about why should they send their children to school. Because we cannot have, we don't know what to do with children, right? And there, some poor teacher, like any one of you, you have to answer the question of 50 or 100 children like that, which is not possible. Then what do? Sit quiet, write composition. Keep on repeating. If you are a mischievous fellow, where is that mischievousness coming from? Because the child has that energy, it has the inquisitiveness. You do everything to suppress that. And the best way to do that, you keep on giving dictation, you keep on asking them questions, then test, weekly test, monthly test, and surprise test. All that is to suppress that natural inquisitiveness. You go on doing that, and then public exam is throughout, up to 9th or 10th, you will be learning to mug up and answer the questions asked by a known ghost. And public exam is, you have to learn to answer questions given by some unknown ghost. We take pride in the confidentiality of question paper. And how many scandals have happened in our lifetime? What for? Is it a piece of gold, the question paper? Why would somebody steal a question paper? Because we have made it a life and death situation for children. The same thing goes on for academic excellence and excellence in engineering. JEE, considered as the toughest entrance exam in the world. What for? If you excel in GATE and GATE for masters, after that you enter your master's project and then PhD thesis. A PhD thesis work starts from you asking a question. Find out a question which has not been, formulate a question which has not been answered and which is still worth answering. That is when the mind gets into depression. You have promoted him all along with high marks for not asking question, for answering some unknown ghost question. And the mind thinks that that's what is its greatest capability. And higher the education, it would think that more of the same thing. No, it is not. At master's level itself, you have to start thinking. Do something worthwhile when you are in a university or IIT-like thing. And PhD, it is absolutely mandatory. When it comes to the registration seminar, if your problem is not defined, it would not get registered. That is when I have seen all PhD scholars would be hiding from public. They would be escaping from meeting people. They get depressed. Because he is unable to formulate a question. For the first time in his lifetime, somebody has asked him to come with a question. That is the root cause of depression. The inquisitiveness. All our Upanishadic and Vedantic literature or the practices were about asking questions. Ask the right question, then you will find the answer in the question. All innovation we talk about is about asking the question, giving attention to the question, finding the right question, not the pseudo question. Now can you look at all the question paper? It's absolutely pseudo question. 5 years question paper is all you need to get excellent marks. And I was horrified, or rather sunken, when I heard university chancellor, vice chancellor of Bangalore University making a statement a few years ago that we are the first university in Asia or in the world who have got 25 years question paper in our library. That is the metric on which we are taking pride on ourselves. So you have that. Result-oriented evaluation, grading for reward punishment, driving exam-oriented rote learning. And we don't know what this reward punishment is doing. That starts from home, then it starts right from your fourth or 3.5 years when the child is sent to school. Just imagine, what does it mean to a child that you are fail in maths? Even those who excel in maths, how much of all that maths is actually used in your daily life? Where? We just don't give any thought to that. Year after year after year, exam after exam after exam, everybody is graded and driven that you are average, you are just above average, you are below average, and you are a failure. What does it mean? And that's what the child becomes. There is independent psychology research which says the reward and punishment are the root causes of, it actually breeds greed and fear. Today, all the leaders in every domain, administration, private business, public business, government, whatever, I star S officers, C star O's, CXOs, when is he considered corrupt? They are not considered corrupt because they lack education. More educated they are, you're likely to find them more corrupt. Where is it coming from? It is very, very deep psychological conditioning coming because of the reward punishment regime by which they are educated. After that, I mean, I can go on talking about it, but the implication of that on life is this greed and fear actually builds the persona towards rejection. Rejection by the society. Who will love a greedy fellow, a corrupt fellow? And fear of doing anything. Then the individual will start rejecting himself out of this fear. The reward and punishment, this is all it is doing. It is not doing anything for any real learning. It is absolutely no real learning. It's only conditioning of the mind that happens. Sorry. So to put it in picture, this is a very popular picture in public domain. This is what we love. Your children going to school with the same uniform, same style, same hairstyle, same dress, same bag. Coming out of that, like factory model, this whole unemployability is the same thing. Why only 5%? Why not all the 100%? They want them to be exactly same. They should pass your written test, spoken English, written English, and aptitude test. Why? What is drained out of that in that process of the factory is, it is exactly the factory model. Just observe your curriculum, your tests, and pass and fail. Your creativity, the discipline, and intelligence, that is what is squeezed out and drained, literally. This is a statement by Albert Einstein. All your exam systems are like that. All your grading and evaluations are like that. An elephant, a monkey, a fish and dog, everybody is given the same test. Climb the tree. Whoever climbs the tree is excellent, otherwise you are fail. This is Einstein saying, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And that's what we are doing for every child. For your child, that's what your schools and colleges are doing. Now industry want all faculty to do more of that. Okay. Why? We are not asking why. Why? What is the need? Because just think about it. If everybody is employable, where is the employment opportunity for everybody? It is so shallow. Our thinking is so shallow. So the fix is individual learning-centric facilitation. We can only facilitate learning. This is what our Vedic and Upanishadic tradition says. Any knowledge cannot be given from one individual to another individual, let alone books. Even the individual cannot give to another individual. The knowledge has to get constructed in the mind of the learner, and that is possible only when the learner's mind is in attention and it is interested, it is motivated, not by any other way. It is not a material thing you take and stuff and it becomes a knowledge. No, it doesn't. I don't think if we have learned anything ever, like Lakur, what is his expertise today, like yours, like his, has it ever come from classroom? No. Why can't we? Every child is different. The learning is asynchronous. We have built this system and we are in the illusion that, this is the ideal thing and therefore, by this ideal, 95% is useless. But why don't we recognize that 95% is the reality? That 5% got adjusted to that. And you see what happens to them after that. After they became employed, what happens to them is another story, right? So organically, why don't you explore? Let them explore whatever is necessary to solve a problem. All education is required to solve a problem. What problem? Problem of living. What is the problem of your living is not same as the problem of living for an American kid. So all our education wants teachers, educators, everybody to work to create resources to solve some problem in America, which is AI for everything. What for, we don't know. We had another, a few months ago, a whole day workshop on AI/ML. The most successful AI system built by the most brilliant academic and industrial research minds is that Tesla driverless car, and another one, your Google's chatbot assistant. What is the net value they have created? They are going to make drivers jobless. This Google assistant is going to make all the receptionists jobless. That is the demo he gave. Do we need so much of intelligence to create that? So and so on. So if we actually put to practice, this is possible. What happens when students own their own learning? In my pro bono learning center, that's what actually transpired and it works. The student has to be primarily made responsible for his own learning. Then they actually discover what is the way they will learn. And on the way, they might even realize that this is not for me. So then it is self-selection or self-rejection. I decide that this is not for me. I will go and explore something else. And when they start learning, enjoying learning, all these things are possible. They'll become creative, independent, enterprising, and so on, so forth. This is a possibility, actually. When you look at the world as it is, it looks like a pipe dream. How is it possible to change the system, etc.? But there are individuals and institutions who have started this movement. There is a movement thing called Project DeFi, Design Education for Yourself. They're making in rural and small towns a community of people. You define what is the problem of the community that should be solved, and everybody will get into learning what is required to solve that. Maker spaces, and so on. That is a movement which is already happening. There is a Swaraj University. It is located in India, somewhere in Udaipur. They have this system. Any graduate, non-graduate, no prior qualification, no competitive examination for selection. They'll make group of 20 Kojis. Kojis are explorers. And then ustads from different domains, different business and industry domains go and spend time with them. They will explore. And then they come out with whatever they like. And they start learning. They are all employed. They are all employable. They get employed in a network of organizations who subscribe to this institution. So this is happening already for many years now. So why can't we do that for technical education? I have done it for analytics. Then the most important thing, our colleague also mentioned, understanding yourself. Our Vedic Upanishadic literature also says that when you make your sahaja pravrutti into vritti, only then you will be happy. When we talk of outcome, should the happiness of the child or a graduate be the outcome we should be looking at? If we are not looking at the happiness of the individual throughout his life, what do you do with this outcome? This is just metric for an institution where everything is virtual. An institution is a virtual thing, only an individual is real. If outcome does not consider happiness of the individual for his lifetime, then is it worth considering as a metric for your business to run? Meditated for self-discovery, which you can take back home and continue. So, unless you understand yourself, then you do not know why you are doing what you are doing. Therefore, you also don't know what does a pass, fail, and excellent and ABC grade means. You think that the way you are labeled by the world is who you are, which is not. Holistic education, possibility or pipe dream? It is not possible without holistic development of the student and the teacher. Both have to realize, why are they doing what they are doing? Is it necessary? Holistic development is possible only when the individual is enabled with learning to learn, not teaching a subject. Can you enable them with how to learn? Through inquisitiveness, through exploring, through discussions, dialogues, with sufficient time given for every one of that, and self-evaluation, peer learning, self-learning, mentored learning, work with mentors, do apprenticeship, do internship, until you become confident. Nobody can put a timetable for that. So it is possible when the individual is enabled, both students and teachers, to learn about the self and life. What is that life as you understand? What does it require in terms of a skill to survive and grow and be happy? Then freedom to explore, discover, and choose what is right for oneself. This is what would make a holistic education in general and technical education in particular possible. But are the educators ready? Which includes administrators, the government, the parents, and teachers. When they are ready, it happens. When they are not ready, children will have to figure out. There is help available. I already showed 4 institutions. I see an individual as an institution sitting there. We have done, you have done, So individual will be taking, some burden of that or doing whatever is possible in our individual capacity, enabling individuals. Thank you.